Hello everybody, my name is Kara, and today I'm here with my April and birthday book haul. So I bought some books in the month of April, and I was also so kindly gifted some books from friends and family, so I'm going to show all of those today. I'm actually going to start out with a couple that I'm not going to really talk about much, and these are either from the end of March or the beginning of April. I can't remember. What is time? And I'm actually not going to talk about these because you have either just seen them in my most recent wrap-up or in my most recent TBR video for the month, so I'm just not going to repeat myself. And those are Rapunzel's Revenge by Shannon and Dean Hale, illustrated by Nathan Hale, Night of the Dragon by Julie Kagawa, Game of Stars by Sayantani Dasgupta, Samarkand by Sarah Prineas, and The Lines We Cross by Rhonda Abdel Fattah. Also, if you guys have been watching my book hauls, you know that for every book I buy, I donate at least $1 to a particular charity. I've taken that idea from my friend Kelly from Cozy Reader Kelly, and I will link her down below as always. And the way I've been doing it, I've actually been doing it for every 2 months. I've been picking the same charity because generally what happens is 1 month I don't buy as many books, and then the next month I buy more, and I just want to combine that amount. My March book haul is already up, so I will link that down below, which has all the information. But for the months of March and April, I ended up donating to a charity that is providing aid and general services related to the current virus outbreak. And again, check that video for specific details about the charity I picked. So the first book I'm going to talk about today is Fairy Godmothers Inc. by Jennifer Wardell. This is a book I've had on my TBR, like my Goodreads TBR, for years at this point, probably from like 2015 or 2016. And I've just never gotten around to picking it up, but I've just been like really in the mood for this for some reason. I've actually read a few pages already, so I'll probably be getting to this sooner rather than later because it's the kind of thing I'm in the mood for right now. It sounds like it's going to be a really clever and light and fun fantasy book. We follow our main character who is a fairy godmother, and I think what happens is she ends up getting paired with a client who's like basically a Cinderella character, and I think the main character, so Kate the fairy godmother, ends up falling for the prince of the girl that she's supposed to be matchmaking. I think that's kind of what happens, but I'm really enjoying the writing and everything so far. I also picked up Servant of the Crown by Melissa McShane. I don't remember much about what this one's about. I just remember that I really enjoyed the synopsis, and again, this is kind of a light romantic fantasy, like kind of cozy fantasy, which is what I've been really in the mood for lately. And I think Tatiana Night Owl, who I think I mentioned in a recent wrap-up video, I think she really enjoys this one, and I saw her review for this and it made me realize that this is the kind of thing I'm exactly in the mood for right now, so I ended up getting it. Next, I have a few new releases. You'll probably recognize these from my most anticipated reads of 2020 video. But first I have The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu. This is a historical fantasy that is about the sister of Mozart. I think her name is Nannerl, who is apparently a very talented musician in her own right, but because she was a woman, she wasn't given the opportunity to show that and to pursue it, and that's just makes me really sad, but I'm really excited to read this book. The cover is absolutely beautiful, and historical fantasy is a subgenre that I really love, so I'm excited to see how this is done. I've really enjoyed what I've read from Marie Lu before, so can't wait for that. And then I also have The Silence of Bones by June Hur. This is a historical mystery, I think. It's set in the Joseon era of Korea. I think the late Joseon period, so around the year 1800 maybe. And I didn't actually plan this, but I'm currently watching a Korean drama that is set like at about that same time, which is Rookie Historian Gu Hae Rung, which I'm also liking. Very different in tone from I think what this one is going to be about, but I'm really excited to get to this. I think our main character is a girl who ends up working with this very renowned, very young inspector, and then I think he gets implicated in the crime, so then it's up to the main character to prove his innocence. I think he's innocent. Yeah, I'm just really intrigued by the idea of this historical mystery, and the Joseon period is one that I've never read a book set in, so I'm really excited about that. Now my last couple of new releases here are both middle grades, and the first one is Ghost Squad by Claribel A. Ortega. I have heard just wonderful things about this from everybody who's read it. Andrea, I know from Book Ramble, I know she really loved it. Jocelyn from You with the Book. The main character is a girl named Loosely, and I think what happens is it she and her friend maybe accidentally unleash a bunch of spirits, and then they need to stop the havoc that they're causing. And I think her best friend has a witch grandmother, and her witch grandmother has a tabby cat named Chunk, who you can see on the cover in the basket. I already love Chunk. Everything about this sounds really wonderful, so can't wait to get to that. I might try and save it for the Latinx readathons that are going to be happening in September or October, but maybe I can't wait that long. And then I also have A Field Guide to Getting Lost by Joy McCullough. Joy McCullough wrote Blood, Water, Paint, which was my favorite book of 2018, I think. And I've just been eagerly waiting for whatever she puts out next, and that's what this is. This is a middle grade contemporary adventure story, kind of. It's about two kids who are, I think their parents are dating, and they're both of the kids are going to the same summer camp. And I don't know if they get like actually lost in the woods or what happens. but I trust Joy McCullough. I don't like survival stories, but I trust Joy McCullough so much that I'm excited about this anyway. Also, I think the girl wants to be a scientist or like a computer coder or something, and I think the boy wants to write fantasy novels. So that sounds great, and I'm excited to get to this. Also, both of these are quite short. Shorter than I would have expected for some reason. Okay, so then the last thing before we get into birthday presents is I have the rest of that book depository order that I talked about in my March haul. The rest of it ended up coming in April. So first I have A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Bridget Kemmerer. This is a sequel to A Curse So Dark and Lonely, which I actually just read in April, and I did like that. I think I'm gonna like this one even more though, because it follows Gray, who is a character that I really enjoyed in the first book. And based on where the first book ended, I think I'm really gonna like the plot for this one as well. So excited about that. These covers are so pretty. And then I also have The Binding by Bridget Collins. So I have heard glowing things about this book from two of my friends, Huck from Badger Reads and Katie from A Sea of Tomes. I think this was one of Huck's favorite books of the year, and then I think Katie just read this year and really loved it and was talking about how amazing it was. And this just sounds wonderful. This is what I've heard is a very like quiet fantasy novel, which are things I tend to enjoy. And in this world, books are very important, but they're very different from what we know. They're kind of a way of collecting memories so that they can't hurt you anymore. So like if you have a really traumatic experience or a horrible memory, you can get that bound into a book, and then it's like, I think, taken out of your memory somehow. And our main character, Emmett, I think what happens is he's a binder's apprentice, and then one day he comes across a bound memory that's one of his. And he doesn't remember doing this. He doesn't remember having this like procedure or whatever done. And then I think the rest of the book is about trying to figure that out. I've heard this is a very emotional book, and that it deals a lot with themes of obviously memory, but also how people can use the same abilities or technology to do a lot of good or a lot of harm, and just like human nature in general. So I'm really excited to get to this one. I've also heard that there is a male-male romance in this book that is really well done. I've also heard that this is one of those books where like knowing what it's about doesn't really help you. So maybe all of that summarizing was unnecessary, but I am very much excited to get to this. I also picked up two books from an author who I've never read, but who I just have a good feeling about. I think this was one of the ones where on Goodreads, like, they'll show you that feature that's like people who enjoyed this book also enjoyed this book. Like they'll have that like bar at the top there. And I think I was on one of Amy Wilson's books, who I've really been enjoying. And apparently this is an author that people who enjoy Amy Wilson tend to enjoy as well. And that is A.M. Howell. And the two books are, I think these are the only two books she has out right now, The House of 100 Clocks and The Garden of Lost Secrets. And these sound like slightly eerie, middle grade historical fantasy, which is, you know, a lot of things I love all put together. And they're also set around the time of World War I, I think, which is a historical fiction time period that I really am finding I really enjoy. I don't remember too much about what the clock one is about, but I think there's a house that has 100 clocks in it that holds a lot of mysteries, and Helena, she has to figure out what the secrets of this house are. So that sounds very mysterious. And then The Garden of Lost Secrets, I'm even more excited for because they compared this to The Secret Garden, which is one of my favorite books. And here's the thing, I am very skeptical of comp titles in general. Like, I feel like I just ignore them most of the time, unless they're paired with something else that I think I would enjoy. But The Secret Garden is one of the only exceptions to that, where like somebody compares a book, especially if it's a middle grade, to The Secret Garden, and I'm like, oh, give it to me. So we'll see how that serves me in this one. So this is about a girl named Clara who is sent to stay with her aunt and uncle during the war. There's this big country estate. There's secrets, a dark locked room, a scheming thief, and a mysterious boy who only appears at night. And then it also says that Clara has a secret of her own, which is one about her brother fighting in the war. So I don't know. I just feel like these books are going to be wonderful. I hope they are. I just have like a good feeling about A.M. Howell as an author. Which I also had about Amy Wilson, and that turned out to be true. So hopefully I'm right with this one as well. I also picked up The Mask of Arabella by Anna Houghton, and I don't know much about this except that this is a middle grade historical fantasy set in Venice, or some kind of analog to Venice, and I really love Italian inspired fantasy, so I'm very much excited about this. And this one also seems like it could be kind of creepy. The description on the back is super short, so I'm just going to read that. On the eve of her birthday, Arabella discovers she has a secret power. When angered, flames shoot from her fingertips. Frightened, she runs away, only to be rescued by a magical organization of masked heroes with their own special skills. Arabella and her new friends have sworn to defend Venice. Okay, so it is Venice. But can they defeat the evil rising from the island of the dead? Ooh, okay. This book in 3 words is Magic, Adventure, and Venice, and they also have a like try it where you can go to a certain page and read to see if you like it, where it won't spoil anything, which I think is Hotkey Books. Is that, I don't know, there's like a few publishers in the UK that they do that, and I think that's really great. I think US publishers should try to do that too. But this just sounds super interesting, and I don't know, the Island of the Dead thing, that could be like just the right amount of creepy I want, or it could be like zombies and things that I do not want. So we'll see how that goes. And then earlier I was talking about a comparison author to Amy Wilson, and here I picked up her other 2 books that are currently out. I really loved The Lost Frost Girl, which I read in January, I think. And then I recently read Angel and Bavar, which I also liked. Not quite as much, but I did really enjoy it. And so I picked up Shadows of Winterspell and Snow Globe. Aren't these like the prettiest paperbacks too? UK paperbacks just knock it out of the park. And I'm sorry, I'm like blatantly reading the back of these because I remember being super excited about them and not any actual details about the story. Okay, so it looks like Shadows of Winterspell is about a girl named Stella who realizes that she might be part of a legend. I think it says something about Fae that could change everything, and there's a magical winter involved, and she has to confront a family secret in order to release a forest from some kind of sinister magic. So that sounds wonderful. I really love wintry fantasy. And then Snow Globe also feels kind of wintry fantasy-like, and that's about our main character Clem, and she ends up going inside a snow globe, I think, to rescue a boy who's like trapped inside one where it's forever winter. So they end up going on a journey through these enchanted worlds, I guess like multiple snow globe worlds, I don't know. And then of course that has consequences. So I think they get kind of caught up in a struggle for power while they're also trying to escape this magical world. So both of these sound wonderful. I am very excited to have read everything that Amy Wilson has written when I finally get to those. And then last from this book depository order is It's Not About the Burqa, edited by Mariam Khan. And this is on my 2020 Reading Women Challenge list. I'm really excited about this. This is a collection of essays all by Muslim women and about all different aspects of being a woman and being Muslim, and I've just heard wonderful things about this. I know Sajid from Books on My Social Life really loved this one, and I feel like I've heard other people talk about it recently too. But I just think this is going to be fantastic, and I'm really, really excited to get to it. I just spilled water all over myself. Nice job. Okay, so now we're going to end this haul with the birthday presents I got. I'm going to start with the ones I got from family, and then I'm going to end with ones I got from BookTube friends. So the first thing I got, this is not book related, but I know some of my bookish friends will be very excited about this. That is the cast recording for Come From Away, which is a musical I have heard just amazing things about. I know the story and I haven't listened to this yet, but I'm already like very emotional about this musical. But Come From Away is based on the real events where after 9/11, many planes were diverted and some of them ended up going to this tiny town in Canada. I feel like the town only had like a few hundred or a few thousand people or something. It was very small. I'm gonna get emotional even like explaining it to you guys. It's just about the way like this town of people really stepped up and they like made them part of their community and they like took care of them. And it's just about like the great good that humans can do for each other, even in the midst of terrible suffering. So just heard that like the show and the music and everything is wonderful. I am very, very excited to finally have this. I think it was my friends Kier and Hannah who both independently told me how much I would love this musical. So I'm very excited that I finally have a copy of the album. And yes, I buy CDs. If you saw our live show discussion on physical versus digital media, you will know that I do still buy CDs because I have used enough iPods and smartphones and all of that to know that sometimes the cloud doesn't quite work and I don't want to lose everything I've downloaded. Okay, and then I did also get a few books from my family. The first is The Scandalous Sisterhood of Prickwillow Place by Julie Berry. I have read and loved exactly one book from Julie Berry, which was Lovely War. But I love that book so deeply and so much that I am pretty confident I'm gonna love everything Julie Berry has written or will write. And this is a middle grade mystery novel set at a girls' school where I think their like mean headmistress and her brother drop dead during dinner and they think it's poison. And so then the girls have to kind of cover this up because they don't want to get sent home. And they're also trying to figure out who killed their headmistress and her brother. And I just think this is going to be so clever and so interesting. And what I'm also hoping is that the tone is well balanced between the wacky hijinks that these kids get up to and the fact that like people died. I feel like Julie Berry can pull that off, which I'm happy about because sometimes you read like dark comedies and I feel like they're not as good about that as they think they are. And then I also have A Fine and Private Place by Peter S. Beagle. I have not read The Last Unicorn yet. I'm going to soon. And this is another one where I read the synopsis and I thought it sounded wonderful and now I can't remember a lot about it. I just know that this is a really beautiful and bittersweet story that takes place in a graveyard. I think it's about a love story between two ghosts and a human character who kind of like helps ghosts, like he talks to them or he like helps them cross over or something. I don't know, I just feel like I'm gonna really love this one, so I'm excited to own it. I also got Don't Overthink It by Anne Bogle. Make easier decisions, stop second guessing, and bring more joy to your life. Don't Overthink It sounds like a very good book for me to read, especially with everything happening right now. I have read 2 other nonfiction books by this author, which I really loved. One of them was Reading People, which was about personality, which I really liked that one. But my favorite of hers was I'd Rather Be Reading, which I just love that book so much. I actually ended up buying a copy after reading it from the library. And this one is a little different than what I thought it was going to be about. I thought this was specifically about like overthinking stuff in like a bookish context, because Anne Bogle is a book blogger, in addition to being an author and everything. But I think it's actually more about like general life stuff, in addition to probably some like personal stories and examples related to book blogging or book reviewing or anything. So I'm really interested to see how this goes. Like I said, I've enjoyed the other things I've read from Anne Bogle, and I definitely need to work on not overthinking things. And the last bookish present from my family is Cleopatra, A Life by Stacy Schiff, who is apparently the winner of the Pulitzer Prize, which is pretty amazing. I am so excited about this. I don't remember, I feel like I have talked about this on my channel. Like I can't imagine any platform of mine where I wouldn't somehow find a way to talk about how much I love and admire and respect Cleopatra. She was a badass, and I am forever bitter about the way that she's characterized in many texts and stories and media and everything like that. And the reason that she has so much negative press is because basically all of the sources that historians and writers have been relying on for hundreds or thousands of years were written by people who specifically hated her and who had an agenda for making her seem incompetent or just not as smart or basically just a pretty face. Anyway, I have a lot of feelings about Cleopatra, so I'm very excited to have this nonfiction book about her. Also, my friend Yvette, I recently saw, she did a really great nonfiction review on a different book that was not as good as this one apparently, but she mentioned how fantastic this was as a biography, so I am extra excited to get to this. I just can't wait to learn more about Cleopatra. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about her. So now I'm going to talk about the presents I so kindly got from some of my bookish friends. Thank you to everybody. These were just wonderful surprises. And the first one is Why You Should Read Children's Books Even Though You Are So Old and Wise by Catherine Rundell. I actually already read this one and loved it. That will be in my April wrap-up, I think, which should already be up. This was from my friend Hannah from Lynn Hermione, so thank you so much. This like title is basically, I feel like 80% of my personality on this channel is like why you should read children's books. This was everything I wanted it to be and more. This is a very short 60 pages, and they're tiny pages too. But this was just such a fantastic book. It ended up being my favorite book of the month. Also, this is something that I feel like I really needed to read about right now, because it's also just about the incredible importance of imagination and storytelling and hope and reality, and the way that children's stories have all of those things in them. So it was just fantastic. And then I also have a few books that I haven't gotten to yet, but I'm very excited to. And the first one is What the Wind Knows by Amy Harmon. This was a present from my friend Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe, so thank you so much. And actually, you might have heard me talk about this in my TBR for May, which might be up, I don't know what my video schedule is. But this is a kind of time travel historical fiction romance. Our main character is a woman named Anne Gallagher, and she gets transported back in time to Ireland in the 1920s. And when she gets there, she gets mistaken for being the mother of this little boy. Apparently his mother went missing, I think several years ago, and I guess Anne looks a lot like her, so she kind of takes up this woman's identity as she tries to figure out like why she got transported back in time and how to get back home and all of that. And then I think she ends up forming a relationship with this little boy's guardian, who is a doctor who ends up getting caught up in the struggle for Ireland's independence in 1921. If you guys watched that reading taste video, you know that like time travel stories that are about relationships and about characters and having hard choices of being torn between the world that they're getting to know with these new relationships they're forming, and then like their home time, like all of the people they care about from there. Those are just exactly my jam. I'm realizing I really love those, so I'm so excited to get to this. I've read The Bird and the Sword by Amy Harmon, which was several years ago at this point, but I really loved that one, and I've been kind of in the mood to read more of her books, so this was perfect timing that I ended up getting this as a present, so thank you, Olivia. Then my friend Huck from Badger Reads gave me 2 books, and the first one is Faces of Love and the Poets of Shiraz by Hafiz, and I think this actually has a poetry of Hafiz and several other poets who I don't know if they wrote similar kinds of poetry or if they were from like around the same time or what, but Hafiz is one of those poets where I have seen several of his poems as part of other things I've read, or, you know, just kind of around on the internet, or when people are talking about poetry or literature. And I have really, really loved what I've read from those short little snippets. So I've been really wanting to read a fuller collection of his work, so I'm so excited to have this. Also, this is a really beautiful edition. This is the Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition, apparently. And this translation is by Dick Davis. And then the other book Huck gave me is The Wishing Thread by Lisa Van Allen. This is a kind of soft fantasy, like a soft contemporary fantasy book, I think. This one also, I feel like I've said this about another book, this kind of reminds me of the way people describe Sarah Addison Allen's books, but keep in mind I have not yet read a Sarah Addison Allen book, so I might be wrong about that. But this is about a family of women who live in this small town, and they kind of have this reputation for making magical objects from yarn. So their magic is kind of based on knitting, which is something I really, really love, which is why Huck got this book for me, because she knew that that would be something I'd be into. I just really like crafting or like textile or especially knitting magic. I just find that so interesting. I'm definitely biased because I am a knitter, so of course I want to see that in like a cool magical context, but I'm really excited to get to this. It seems like there's going to be like secrets and possibly a romance element, and also a lot about family and sister relationships, so also can't wait to get to this one. And then technically I think this got here like the very, very beginning of May, but it's a birthday present, so I'm going to include it here. This is from my friend Yvette from Book Cave. By the way, as with every video I do, every time I mention somebody, I link their channel down below, so be sure to check that description box out for all of the wonderful people I talk about. And she sent me a box, and she included this really amazing Oscar Wilde birthday card. And then also on the Oscar Wilde theme, she gave me the earrings that I'm actually currently wearing. They're little clusters of stars, which are so beautiful. And they came on this card because they're Oscar Wilde themed. And the quotation on the card is, "We are all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars." And that is my favorite line from my favorite Oscar Wilde play, which is Lady Windermere's Fan. And I just love these so much. And then she also gave me this Jane Austen silhouette bookmark, and it's really beautifully made. It's like engraved wood, I think. And I really like the color as well, so I can't wait to use that. And then she also gave me this beautiful graphic novel, which is I Know What I Am, The Life and Times of Artemisia Gentileschi by Gina Siciliano. So everybody knows that I am a little bit obsessed with Artemisia Gentileschi, and I've seen this graphic novel advertised, but I'd never like worked myself up to actually buying it or anything. So I am so grateful to have this. Thank you, Yvette. This is just beautiful, and it's like pen and ink, I think, drawings, and they're really striking. Like some of them are almost like portrait style. Let me see if I can find a good example of that. So there's a portrait of Artemisia, and this, I think this graphic novel covers almost all of her life, or most of her life. But a lot of times when there is a story told about Artemisia, it's about her early life, because that's when she developed her painting skills, and also unfortunately when she got raped by her tutor, which is unfortunately what she's best known for, although that is, I think, starting to change because her work is being rediscovered and kind of like analyzed. It's becoming a much bigger part of scholarship now, which is very exciting. I'm so excited to see a story about her that focuses on like all of her life and all of her accomplishments and all of the things that she experienced, rather than just those couple that we know her for, or that people primarily know her for. And also I think this graphic novel incorporates quotations from her own letters and her own writings, so I'm very excited to read this and to add this to my Artemisia Gentileschi shelf, because yes, I do have one. Okay everybody, so those are all of the books I got in April, and also for my birthday, and also possibly a few for March. I don't know, let's just call this like a spring and birthday book haul, because I tried to keep track, but sometimes, you know, things just get mixed up. Thank you so much to everybody who gave me things. Like, that was just such a wonderful surprise. Thank you to everybody for the birthday wishes, and thank you just for like being here and hanging out. We're all in this together. We're gonna make it through. I hope everybody is doing really well. Let me know if you have read and enjoyed any of these books, and let me know a book that you're really excited to read. I know libraries and bookstores are closed right now, but maybe it's something that you've had for a while and you're just really excited to get to, or maybe it is something you were gifted. I just want to hear about something that you're excited to read. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!